located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
From the Broadcast Center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus, this is All Talk Radio. You're listening to 1680 The Crow.
Good afternoon. You're listening to BCIT The Crow. I'm Jocelyn Chappelle with your 3:30 p.m. news headlines. Freezing temperatures in the Lower Mainland caused widespread damage across the city. Some are still being repaired today. Crews over at Mission Memorial Hospital are working to repair flooding and water damage, which has caused emergency patients being diverted to Abbotsford and Maple Ridge hospitals. Fraser Health is also working to determine a plan of action and evaluate the extent of damage at a Surrey senior care home. 13 residents were evacuated this weekend after pipes burst and a heating system failure. Faculties and businesses weren't the only ones affected by freezing pipes. Many local residents experienced issues as well. Our reporter Ugoloy Suvanova found out ways people can prevent pipe bursting and freezing in their homes.
Many people have lost water access in their homes due to pipe freeze, pipe burst, drain freezing, pipe leaks, and flooding across the Lower Mainland. Jared Bernstein, a co-owner of P2 Plumbing Vancouver, recommends people to call a plumber to fix damages rather than trying to fix it themselves.
Do is leave your faucets running quite just a trickle, the hot and the cold, at all times, and then make sure that you know where your water main is. So that's the main shutoff for the water to your house. And that way, if you discover a leaking pipe, you can go shut off the water before it causes any damage.
Metro Vancouver is expecting to have longer frozen temperatures throughout the week. People should take precautions to prevent pipes from freezing. I'm Ugoloy Suvanova for BCIT The Crow.
A Lower Mainland resident is also concerned about the cold weather and how it is affecting others. Our reporter Grace McLeod spoke with him about why he was inspired to help in the community response he has received.
BC is now officially getting a taste of winter with the freezing temperatures now in place. However, some are not able to have access to warmth and comfort during this time. A few locals around the Lower Mainland are selflessly working together to provide the warmth and safety needed for those who are less fortunate during this winter season. Louise Aguilera, a Port Coquitlam resident, is amongst the kind and considerate people helping those in need.
People helped me a lot when I was in need, and they have many times. I have always wanted to help, like give back some of what I have. But yeah, whenever I get a little bit of money, I put it aside, and that was the goal.
Aguilera reached out to many in the Port Coquitlam area, asking them to donate clothing, blankets, and anything to keep someone comfortable. Many people responded and were enthusiastic to help his cause. I'm Grace McLeod at BCIT The Crow.
Grace joins us now in studio to talk a little bit more about this story. Grace, is Louise planning on doing this again in the near future?
Yes, Jocelyn, of course he is. He is actually planning on going out tonight. He had so many people donate to him throughout the weekend and all around Port Coquitlam, Port Moody, Coquitlam, Tri-Cities, and he had 4 bags full for his truck the other day, and people continue to want to donate, and so he's hoping that he can go out tonight and throughout as long as the winter kind of continues on.
Mm-hmm. And where did he take these warm garments over this past weekend?
Yeah, so he kept it local for the Tri-Cities for most of it, handing out to the people who are less fortunate and outside for the winter season and this temperature drop, as well as he actually headed out to Hastings in Vancouver, Hastings Street. And he gave the rest of the garments to them, and they seemed really, really excited and happy and everything about getting all of this. But he also told me that he thinks it could have been the fact that he gave them donuts and coffee as well, because who doesn't like that? So he that's where he kind of went.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Grace.
Thank you.
The Langley RCMP says a pedestrian has died this morning after being hit by a car. The incident took place outside of an Aldergrove neighborhood shortly after 7 a.m., according to Mounties. They say alcohol and speed do not appear to be factors and that the driver remained on scene to help with the investigation. Police are urging drivers to take alternate routes. They say 264 Street will remain closed for the majority of the day and still do not have an estimated time of reopening. As of this morning, BC pets will not be considered property in family law cases. The change is under the Family Law Act and will impact cases when determining who owns animals after a separation or divorce. Instead of being treated as property, courts will now consider various factors, including each person's ability to care for the animal, relationships a child has with the animal, and any risks of family violence or cruelty, according to the province. Court recordings have revealed that during an investigation into the murder of a 13-year-old girl, BC police officers went undercover, disguised as tea marketers to secretly collect the DNA of around 150 Kurdish community members. BC Premier David Eby says he struggles with the idea that police should not have conducted the operation. Here is audio from the Canadian Press.
The police went out, identified the suspect, arrested him, and he was successfully prosecuted. Every argument on his behalf that could have been levied, and in fact some that caused people to raise questions about the arguments that were brought forward, which was his right to do in a criminal trial but reactivated a bunch of trauma for people, was brought forward.
According to a new report, the average asking price for a rental unit in December was over $2,100 a month. Michelle Zidikan with the Canadian Press describes the constant price jumps.
The data from rentals.ca and Urbanation shows the average monthly cost of a one-bedroom unit in December was roughly $1,900, up 12.7% from the same month in 2022. The average asking price for a two-bedroom, $2,300, up 9.8%. The report says asking rents over the past 2 years have increased overall by about $390 per month. It predicts the rental market will still be undersupplied with strong demand this year, but rent growth should be closer to its longer-term average of about 5%. Michelle Zadikian, the Canadian Press.
For upcoming local weather, Environment Canada has lifted Arctic outflow and extreme cold weather warnings for a majority of the province. However, residents should be prepared for snow flurries on Tuesday or Wednesday, followed by rain later this week with temperatures expected to stay below zero. Today it's mostly sunny with wind chill close to -7 right now. However, winds are expected to lighten up as we head into the evening. Those were your 3:30 p.m. news headlines. Coming up after the break, we will be talking about what's making sports news today.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
This is sports on 1680 The Crow.
Welcome back to BCIT The Crow for the afternoon sports rundown. Today in hockey, the Canucks lost their 5-game winning streak against the Columbus Blue Jackets today. The final score was 4-3. The New Jersey Devils played the Boston Bruins. The Bruins finished the game with a win, beating the Devils 3-0. Seattle Kraken versus the Pittsburgh Penguins wrapped up an hour ago, and the Penguins won 3-0. Toronto is banking on the experienced players on its roster to climb out of their slow start of the Professional Women's Hockey League season. Captain Blair Turnbull says experience plays a role in the confidence she has in the team to rebound. Here's the Canadian Press with the audio.
We have a ton of experience throughout our lineup, and I think with experience, you go through adversity all the time, and I think it's about understanding and knowing that it doesn't last forever, and things will get better. You just really have to stick to it and stick together.
Montreal Canadiens manager Kent Hughes says anything is possible when it comes to offering Sean Monahan a contract before the NHL trade deadline. The Canadian Press has the audio of Hughes speaking about the open-ended situation.
Because, you're coming in trying to reset right after a number of years of injury-riddled seasons where he hasn't been able to play, to be able to reset, but also to be able to play. So, the kind of more open-ended situation with Sean was come here, play. Let's see where we are when we get to the deadline. And it's still the case.
In soccer, Toronto FC coach John Herdman says his players have shown up for training camp in top shape, but also states that the roster is still a work in progress. Here's the Canadian Press with audio of Herdman.
I spoke to the group prior to Christmas and I made it clear if the standards weren't met. But everyone's done it. They've more than done it. So, usually you'll see some players come into pre-season and use the pre-season to get fit. The players have put a shift in this off-season. So I think it's been a really positive period of time.
The team is heading for Florida on Tuesday to start the on-field training part of the pre-season. The Canadian men's hockey team faced a tough 9-0 loss to Germany at an Olympic qualifier. Even with the loss, the Canadians are looking ahead to games against Chile on Tuesday and New Zealand on Thursday. The Australian Open is also currently underway. Montreal's Felix Auger-Aliassime outlasted Austria's Dominic Thiem today. The 5 sets were almost 5 hours of playtime, with the first round victory wrapping up around 2 a.m. local time at Melbourne Park. Earlier, Denis Shapovalov and Milos Raonic, both from Ontario, lost their opening matches. In the women's singles, Rebecca Marion from Vancouver is scheduled for a first-round play on Tuesday. Leila Fernandez from Quebec won her opening match over the weekend against Elisa Parks. In a streaming experiment of an NFL game, record numbers were counted as millions tuned in this weekend. Here's ABC's Jason Nathanson with the story.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Peacock scored with the NFL's first ever playoff game aired exclusively on a streaming service. An average audience of 23 million watched the Chiefs beat the Dolphins on Saturday, the most streamed live event in U.S. history. NBC Universal, the parent company of Peacock, says people watching the game caused the largest internet usage ever in a single day in the U.S. 30% of that traffic was made up of
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.